Welcome back to the Sam Houston Sports Talk podcast. Took a little bit of a break, but bye week for Sam Houston football, and now it's all back in action. Luke, the break was nice, and I'm sure the football team enjoyed the break too. But it's now time for the real football to be played because, not only they have Western Kentucky coming up, they also got their toughest test even after facing the Hilltoppers back at in Bauer Stadium in Jack State and Liberty, especially since how we've been seeing the inexcusably awesome midweek Conference USA football that's been going down while we've been sitting back and enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, it was the perfect time to have a bye week, but now it's back and ready for more Sam Houston football. And yeah, you talk about it. It is fun seeing the Conference USA teams, all the interconference foes going at each other. In the midweek games, that's fun. It gives us our Saturdays we can watch. Some other huge games going on around. Not have to worry about
Oh,
Sam.
yeah.
So yeah, but ready to get back to it. Colin, I've been battling a little bit of a cold
I think every
for the past
I think everyone has, man.
dude, for the past few days, man, it's just been sinuses, just maybe it's just allergies. I don't know, but we're healthy, we're ready to go. We both will be in attendance on Wednesday there at Bowers, so excited to be there.
Yeah, we're gonna be on the field, and if there's a cure for sinuses, it's college football, baby.
Oh yeah.
We all saw what happened this weekend, which it was insane. LSU, Ole Miss, especially Oregon and Ohio State. Oh my gosh, what an ending! But there's a lot more where that came from. There's a lot that happened in Bearcat sports while we were away. Volleyball is performing very well. Soccer, their season is winding down. They're in really good position to go back to the Conference USA tournament. Men's basketball had their exhibition game, the charity game for Hurricane Burrow relief. The Conference USA had their basketball tip off as well. Not going to get too much into that. We'll get more into that in a later episode when we preview Sam Houston men's and women's basketball. And of course, football coming up against Western Kentucky. The and Big Red. I really hope Big Red is there. That's for sure. If not, then I'm gonna be kind of sad.
Those helmets that Western Kentucky wore this past week with the googly eyes on the side, that those were beautiful. Those were awesome.
It is freaking brilliant. I will say that. But before we get into football, we are going to first, give the other Bearcat sports their stars, especially volleyball. Let's start with volleyball, and of course, at first, we did predict in our preview of them that they were going to make the Conference USA tournament. We don't know how. We don't know how many wins and losses, but we said that they were going to go back to the Conference USA tournament. And now, Luke, they're in fourth place in a really good position. They just gutted out a tough two-game set against New Mexico State where they lost 3 sets to 1 in the first one on Saturday, but then came back and just ran the table, 3-0 victory on Sunday. Head coach Brenda Gray's got something going over there, that's for sure. They're now going to hit the road against Kennesaw State, and the two key similarities between New Mexico State and Kennesaw State, the Bearcats, by the time they face either side, which they've already had with the Aggies, but with the Owls and Aggies, they were both right next to the Bearcats. New Mexico State was in fifth, the Bearcats were in fourth. New Mexico State won, that completely flipped their places in the table. Then the Bearcats won, that flipped back for the Bearcats to be in fourth. And just over recently, Kennesaw State, with a great performance against Liberty, have now find themselves in fifth place, right below the Bearcats. Luke, talk about pressure, if I should say so myself.
Yeah, right now, Colin, both teams are 5-3 um, in the standings in the conference standings. Us having the tiebreaker right now, I think it's just because of our due to our overall record. I think that's the first tiebreaker when it comes to that thing. But it's a huge two games, right, for us. I mean, Kennesaw being right next to us in the standings, you try to get a little separation there as much as possible, right? In the conference USA and going to Kennesaw. We've actually been, I think, pretty decent on the road. I know we lost both sets there to UTEP, but we did really well there against La Tech, right? And so, um, you can tell this group has really grown from last year to this year, and it feels like every game, they're getting better and better. Progress, which is always a good thing. And so, and we talked about at the beginning of the year, we know where this program was last year, and kind of the results and what kind of happened throughout the entire year. Colin, it's just good to see this team getting back in the winning column, being competitive, and looking like it could challenge for maybe a little bit of a dark horse there in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, and also the thing is, like, you still have a lot of the same players from last year. You only had two
Right.
transfers come in Piper Boyston and Lila Washington. Uh, but it's been Michaela Penakova that's really honestly been the star or one of the stars of the show. But if you had to ask me who's been the biggest star, it's so far been the Slovakian native. So, but I mean, just I don't really necessarily know where this team is at yet. They are where they are at right now in fourth place, but I New Mexico State was like, okay, where we are at game. I think this two-game set against Kennesaw State will for sure let us know like where this team stands when it comes to when you compare them to the overall competition in the conference.
Yeah, Colin, you talk about it. I mean, Michaela Penakova has been absolutely phenomenal for this team. Someone that coming into the season maybe you just didn't know much about, and now we've really found out. And she's done well serving, returning, striking the ball from the outside position, and also Avery Fowler. I mean, we knew how good of a player she was, but this year, really taking a big role there, being the setter of the team, offensively, really, helping this team. Whereas last year, it just felt stagnant a lot of times, and you've seen this whole entire team grow, which is good. Uh, Now remember, this past two right against New Mexico State was at home, so if you can go to Kennesaw now, a team that's very comparable to you, coming into the Conference USA around the same time, Colin. If you could get these two and potentially sweep, that would create some big separation and set yourself up well against Jackson State coming on. That'd be the 24th.
Yeah, well, Jack State is one of the only three teams in Conference USA to not win a conference game. So there's already plenty of separation there, and that gives me much more confidence that this team is going to make the Conference USA tournament and their first conference tournament overall since 2021 in the fall when they won the Western Athletic Conference Southwest Division Championship, which they won in the first round. So
If you can get those, if you can get a 4 game separation right now, in these next four, that sets yourself up well, and you can afford to lose one or two against a Western Kentucky or a Liberty. You set yourself up well by taking care of the teams that you think you're better than.
yeah, well, there's also another team in for Sam Houston that's also getting ready for the Conference USA tournament and fighting for better seeding, and that's Sam Houston Soccer. They've been it's been an interesting season to say the least. Obviously, it's a lot better. It's a lot better than the last few years. It feels like combined. You know, it's just that this time around they faced the supposed number one seed. Because FIU, those Panthers from Miami, they're undefeated in conference play, and they beat the Bearcats over this past weekend on Sunday, 3-1, excuse me, and they but it's all right, you still got one more home game to go, still a couple more games but you're still in good position to make the Conference USA tournament again. Top 6 teams make it. Bearcats are in 4th place if I remember correctly. Yeah, no, 5th place. So they're in 5th place, so they're kind of playing with fire a little bit, but because there's so much separation from the bottom 4 teams to the other 6 teams, I just don't see how Sam Houston cannot make the Conference USA tournament.
No, and I think you've done that. Not necessarily you've locked it up so far, but this team has has definitely showed that it can really challenge. And I think we've gotten a little unlucky there. I think
Yeah.
against Liberty, I think we could have easily at least drew that game, if not maybe win. And a few bounces don't go our way there against FIU, and FIU is a good team. Like you said, right? So losing the past two at home has been tough. Colin, you were at the Liberty game, right?
No, I was not. I was
Oh,
not.
I know. Who did I know? Someone was at, and they said that all the dogs were there, and it was actually really, it was cool seeing it was the pups,
Yeah,
there
the
at the Pritchett.
yeah the pups bringing their owners out to the game. That was awesome.
Yeah, pretty much. But it does suck that you lost your last two at home, but you get one more shot right here against Middle Tennessee, and then you try to go play UTEP and then Western Kentucky. After that, we know where this team has been, Colin, the past decade or so. It's not been great. And you've seen this program start to turn around really, and you're seeing a lot more fight from the team, and I still do think we can challenge for a championship
I do
there in the
too.
tournament.
I do too. And the thing is, I case in point is last year, Sam Houston got into it, and it felt like everyone was already writing them off to be a first round exit, but then they won that, and they probably, if several things went their way. I mean, obviously you can say that for everybody, but if several things went their way, they probably would have made the championship game. Um, but it didn't happen, of course. They lost in the second round. The thing is, you still got one more home game. You still got Middle Tennessee this Sunday at 1 p.m. And then to end the season, you go, and this is kind of a interesting travel right here. You go at UTEP on Sunday, October 27th. So you got a week off to refresh from the three game homestand in a way, and then you go on the road Friday, November 1st at Western Kentucky. So you're not playing a midweek game in there by any means. I mean, you'll have plenty of time to recover from the UTEP travel, and if anyone's ever taken a flight out there, it is a little rough. It's interesting, but then you get to go out to Bowling Green, and then come back home, get ready to go to the Conference USA tournament, which is being held. And we pointed this out earlier, of course, is in Miami on FIU's campus.
I have a question for you, and I'm kind of just going to throw this on to you.
That's okay.
Um, does it concern you at all the team's reliance on Townsend a little bit?
You know what? I was kind of gonna get to that. I think some other players are gonna need to step up. Tiana Johnson I think needs to get going. I think the defense is just fine. I think the goalkeeping is just fine as well. I'm not really necessarily worried about that, but Luke, it's what you were concerned about before the season started when we previewed this team and this season is that the scoring is you're hoping that the scoring is going to improve. At times it looks like it's really good, and then at other times it's like nothing happens. But if it's just like last year, I feel like once that Conference USA tournament comes by, that maybe they're just one of those teams like it, it just something clicks when it has to, like basically under the pressure kind of deal.
Yeah, you like to see a little bit more. You look at the stats, and stats don't lie. I mean, numbers are number. Townsend is our offense. I mean, she's the one that takes a lot of the corners.
Yep.
She's invested heavily on the free kicks, set pieces. I mean, a lot of it goes through her, and that's where I kind of worry a little bit. If teams just go all out and say, okay, she's not going to score on us. We're not letting her get the ball. Make someone else beat you. Can we do that? I think we can, but we just haven't seen that consistently this year.
Yeah. I mean, you still got three more games to figure something out. Then you got the break, and then you got the Conference USA tournament. There's time still, but time is a luxury that's slowly running out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how I see it. Hopefully, they can get something going. But now moving back to Bernard G. Johnson Coliseum side of things, Sam Houston men's basketball, they uh, are about to get their season underway. I woke up this morning. It was actually late at night when I saw this because I couldn't sleep. But the Ken Palm rankings came out, and boy, Luke, if you, I will say this, if you're a college basketball fan, you know when Ken Palm rankings come out, that's when the season is starting. And
Ken Pomeroy is a legend, Colin. It's not something I totally buy into, but I do love Ken Palm.
it's something that the committee does take in consideration more and more. It seems like as time goes on.
It is because the committee and experts know that his and if you don't know what Ken Palm is basically a um, a database, and it's a lot of advanced sort of statistics that he takes in place. It's efficiency numbers, it's strength of schedule, net ratings. It's there's a
Temp,
lot that goes into it.
one of my favorite ones, tempo.
Tempo, yes. Luck is another one, which is kind of funny, but his models are always very not perfect, but they are really good, and it's a really good basis just to kind of see if where you are and kind of what he thinks of you and what the data says about you. And it is fun when Ken Palm releases that first um, rankings, and it's fluid throughout the year. I mean, he updates that every night.
Yeah. Well, I decided to look into those rankings. Sam Houston men's basketball is number 114. And that's the third best in Conference USA, with Liberty being the highest at 106 and La Tech at 107. Luke, we're probably gonna break this down again in a preview pod for men's basketball, but just kind of real quick, what was your initial reaction when you saw where Sam Houston was ranked? Do you think it's just right? Do you think maybe it's a little too low, or do you think they're too high? Just kind of what was your initial reaction?
Well, my initial reaction, no, it's interesting because the team returns a lot, right? I mean, you return a lot of part of your front court and your back court, your bench. You lose a couple of guys, right? You lose, Jaden Ray, who's been in the program for a long time. Barnes, he transfers out, and those are two key pieces, right? Um,
You also lose your center to graduation in Dumbia.
Right. Yeah. Dumbia, but you also return a lot of guys. Damon Nicholas, right? Boykin, Wilkerson, who played large amounts of minutes, right? Hefner's back. He's been at Sam Houston forever. It feels like now. Scroggins, same with him. And then you bring back all these other new guys, a few transfers. So it is tough to say. I think relative to the conference, I think that's about right. Um, third, anywhere between first and fourth, I think is pretty up for grabs right now in the conference. I think Ken Palm maybe overvalued Liberty, maybe a little bit. I think. That being
Well,
said,
well,
Liberty is
remember,
filled with just 3-point shooters.
Ken Palm does take history of the program into account quite a lot.
Right.
I will say I wasn't really too shocked by it. I was like, okay, well, I mean, historically speaking, Sam Houston's men's basketball has been at times really, really good, but also at times not up to par. But
Yeah.
last year was kind of weird because non-con was very rough. There were close games that we should have won. There were some games where they had to escape by the skin of their teeth. But then you reach Conference USA play, and man, they just went on a surprising tear. I mean, not a lot of people expected this, Luke, especially with the new head coach Chris Mudge, who's now heading to his second season. And he starts that second year with an exhibition against Prairie View A&M at the Del Mar Fieldhouse in Houston, Texas, a charity game as well for Hurricane Beryl relief efforts. 94-87, Sam Houston won. Um, just to get this out of the way, we're not taking that result seriously. I'm personally not. Like, if you want me to be completely honest, Luke, if it was a regular season game, Sam Houston men's basketball wins that by at least 20 to 30. So it's just a time where you get your guys going, you try things, you get the humps out of the way on the defensive side of things, when like scheming and all that stuff. It's basically just like NFL preseason. If you want a comparison, don't take it seriously. It's just to get the guys going. But I'm very confident in these group of guys. Coach Mudge said in the Conference USA basketball tip-off that depth is one of the biggest things that they have, and I think if you want to not just win your conference tournament but also make a run in the dance, you gotta have that depth against these bigger schools that you're gonna face in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean that's of course right. The interesting that thing that we saw last year that a lot of people were surprised about was that in the previous regime with Coach Hooten, it was defense, 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 scratch and claw our way to 60 points and try to find a win, win ugly, rock fight type game. With Mudge last year, we saw a little something different. We saw a little bit more of a tempoed offense. We like to push the ball a little bit more. And we saw a score, 70, 80, 85 at times, right? And in college basketball, hitting that 70, 75 number, that's a big number to hit. Usually, if you hit that number first, you're just going to win that game. And we saw that last year. And that's something that, we just didn't know what we were gonna see last year. And I think Ken Palm and I think a lot of these people, the so-called experts, I think they understand what Chris Mudge is, what he represents, and also how good this program has been in the recent few years. I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, while we haven't had the tournament success in conferences, we have showed that we can play really good ball throughout the season. Um, so that to kind of get back to your last question, that ranking, I think 114 in the grand scheme of it all, I think that's pretty accurate. We'll see how we look. The schedule. We play some pretty big teams, right? Nevada's
Yeah.
going to be tough. They're in Reno. I'm going to try to go to the Baylor game in Waco. That'll be good. So lots of moving parts there, and lots of different, new faces in the program, but still a lot of returners. I like where we are right now. I'll just say that.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to let us get too much into it because we're going to say that, like I said, for the men's basketball preview. So let's now dive straight back into football. Bearcats once again coming off of a bye week, 5-1, quietly becoming one of the best stories in the country. It seems like, Luke, but now it's now time to prove like they do belong in the conversation of winning the Conference USA championship game by taking on one of four teams that are competing along with Sam Houston in Western Kentucky. They didn't make the conference championship last year, even though they seemed like that they had the tools to make it. This year was not off to a good start either. You get blown out by Alabama 63-0. Finley gets hurt. But then Veltkamp, who I personally like, I think he's a good quarterback. I thought he should have been starting from the get-go because of what he did in that bowl game against Old Dominion, which I liked what I see.
Mhm.
But of course now he's starting. He looks good. Western Kentucky's feeling dangerous. The spirit of Big Red is on fire right now. It is awesome. I will say Big Red is awesome. I will say that. I will give Western Kentucky flowers on that. But unfortunately, Big Red, I hope we beat your spirit because they're coming to Bauer Stadium, and from what Keeler said in the press conference earlier today, it sounds like it's going to be a great crowd that's going to show up at 6 p.m. on ESPN2.
Yeah, and he had a lot of high praise calling for Western Kentucky. I mean, he called them probably the second most talented team that we'll see this year. Number one being UCF, and that UCF loss is actually, it was looking pretty good. UCF has gone off the trail there. I mean, they have fallen off the cliff, and
Hey,
they've had a few injuries. They've had a few injuries. I'll give them that. And the floods, the hurricane season, I'll give them that. But back to Western Kentucky, Colin.
yeah, I mean, I will say the key to facing UCF is probably facing them later in the year when teams start figuring them out because uh, if we are being honest, it wasn't UCF as a whole that beat us. It was RJ Harvey that beat us.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but anyway, continue.
Western Kentucky is a good team, and I say that, and you're like, okay, well, no, duh. But let's remember now the two Conference USA teams that we've played, UTEP and New Mexico State. Those aren't nearly kind of the gauntlet that um, it really is about, right? UTEP and New Mexico State both really struggling this year. They're down there kind of in the bottom of the conference with Kennesaw. Western Kentucky was a team that coming into this year, you thought, okay, like that's going to be one of the top teams in the conference, and they've proven that this year.
Yeah.
Veltkamp has looked really good. It's an interesting offense. It's a balanced type look. They want to throw the ball a lot, but they run the ball extremely well. Um, I like where we are defensively to match up. I really love our team right now. I mean, we've nothing but uh, A pluses kind of everywhere for the team. But this will be a tough matchup. West Kentucky is one of the premier teams in this conference, and it's been uh, proven for a long time.
I will say, watching the film on them in that UTEP game that they had last week, I was personally expecting them to like ball out UTEP by like 40 or 30 something or whatever. I mean, obviously it's a conference game, but it's like you're coming off of a bye week. You're doing red out. You got the googly eye helmets. This screams like UTEP's gonna get killed. I mean, obviously they did, but at first, Luke, it was looking pretty strange. It's like, okay, why is UTEP like? Why is this game close? Like, why am I starting to feel like that UTEP's got something cooking? And then obviously that whole thing happened. That whole thing happened where they just could not get anything going whatsoever. But that game told me, Luke, that first half rather, showed me that Western Kentucky is not they're not immortal. They're mortal. They're a team that can make mistakes on their own and beat themselves or make mistakes that will beat themselves. I am.
They're
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm not going. You're going.
I'm going. Okay. I just will say. I want to say we have the momentum. We have the momentum because we're on the bye week and we have a lot of hype built around us. I just worry sometimes bye weeks don't matter. I mean,
Mm.
I don't know. Someone tells me like this bye week doesn't matter. We're not going to roll over them like we did other teams. We're going to have to really fight for the victory like we did against Texas State. May hopefully not fall behind by 3 scores, early like that. But I think that spread right. I think it's right now 1.5 in favor of Sam Houston. I think that's pretty accurate.
It's one. I thought I was seeing three and a half, Colin.
I haven't checked like in a bit unless it
Two and a half. Two and a half.
2.5. Wow, that's interesting. That's
Wow,
interesting.
yeah. This is a toss-up game.
Yeah,
When Coach Keeler has talked about those 50-50 matchups, this is kind of one of those. And remember last year we could have won. I
absolutely.
mean, you were there. We had a huge second quarter there, and then just couldn't find a way to get it done in the fourth quarter. I think with our offense, um, and West Kentucky has a good defense. I'm not taking out anything away from their defense. I just think we're so much better on offense being a home game, coming off the bye, everyone's a little bit more healthy. I just like where we are. Um, you know, I didn't necessarily love the way we played against UTEP. Um, I don't think we've played our best game yet, our best 4 quarters yet. And I asked Coach Keeler about that.
Yeah.
Um, and he pretty much said, we're gonna have to play a complete game to beat Western Kentucky, coming on Wednesday. And I don't think we've seen us play that type of game. I think we were close to that with New Mexico State, but I think the offense was pretty stagnant at times in that one. But this is a game where you're going to need Hunter Watson to throw for probably 220 or more, um, and not turn the ball over at all. Um, this just isn't a game where you can run for, I think, 350 and that's it.
I mean, that running game's still going to play a big part, though, in a way.
It
Um,
it is no doubt. And when you have the backs that we have and Ducker, um, you know, all the guys, right? McKinney, we have the guys. There's no question about that. The athletes are there. We get to spread West Kentucky out and really throw the ball. That's what we're gonna have to do.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's point and simple
yeah,
because we can't be as one-dimensional as we've been, in the past few games.
yeah. But I will say, me personally, the biggest matchup is Veltkamp against that secondary. I think that's going to be. I think the front seven will be, well, in this case, front six if you look at the base defense. But either way, the linebackers, the D line, I think they'll be totally fine. I have full faith in them. I think they could stop the run. I just am curious to see how this secondary does against the Western Kentucky passing game, and I'm once again looking at Cash and Weaver back there in the safety positions.
Totally, and we know how good they've been, Colin. I mean, Isaiah Cash and Caleb Weaver have been absolutely phenomenal. Really, the whole secondary's been good. I think this. You think this will be the toughest matchup, man for man, that we'll see all year on the outside? On the outside,
What, like the corners? Are you talking?
corners, safeties, yeah, like in the conference, of
Oh,
course, not counting out of conference.
yeah, it's mainly because of the quarterback, really. Like I would say Liberty, but they lost some guys at that on in that receiving core, and it's mainly and honestly, if we're looking at Liberty, if we want to touch on that real quick, it's been Cooley that's been carrying that team, Quentin Cooley. I mean Salter, still don't never doubt Caden Salter. Uh, I know there were some people out there that were kind of dogging on Liberty a little bit, which I see. That's okay. They're not the same team as last year. But I mean, you said it best, Luke. If you would like to say it for yourself. What?
Liberty's been underwhelming,
Yeah,
pretty
and
much. I think a similar point to this team though, Colin, with Western Kentucky, it's very much like um, Texas State, where Texas State doesn't necessarily have one huge receiver. They really spread it out to a bunch of their guys and let a lot of guys eat. I think that's kind of the biggest similarity, um, kind of matchup wise. West Kentucky might not have the absolute X receiver, but they have a lot of guys that can beat you.
that are athletic and speedy. Like
Yeah.
which is like you said, what Texas State has. Uh, what a I mean, there's not really anything else I can really say about Western Kentucky. I mean, all I can say is last year, Caleb Weaver had probably his best game of his career against Western Kentucky when he had 2 interceptions. Noah Smith also had a really great game against Western Kentucky as well, and that's who I was going to get to earlier, but I totally my mind bypassed that. We talk about the passing game for Western Kentucky. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but Luke, I think if Watson wants to throw for over 220 something yards, or heck, even more than that, why not? gotta get these other guys involved. I mean, I'm not saying it just has been Quavez Humphreys, but it seems like all of his passing touchdown, almost all of his passing touchdowns have been the Quavez Humphreys. I mean, that could be inaccurate. It probably isn't, but that's just what it feels like. And I really want to. I really hope that there's ways they can run plays that will give Adai and Smith opportunities because you can't just have one receiver. You got to have more, obviously. Adai is still that dynamic playmaker. Noah Smith's still that dynamic playmaker. But I hope they get the ball in their hands more, is what I'm trying to get at.
I do, and they're going to be used in a similar way. Um, in a lot of motion, a lot of coming across the middle.
Yeah.
Um, those type of concepts. The guy that I think we really need to get going is Simeon Evans. He's a
Yes.
guy that you can throw him in the slot, you can throw him on the opposite side of Humphreys and try to get some work out of him. I mean, and you're not completely wrong when you say, man, it feels like every single touchdown has gone to Humphreys. Um, he's got four. The next leading on the team is two, and the last guy. I mean, Michael Phoenix scored the one there against UTEP. Um, that was kind of late. And last time I think Simeon scored, it's felt like um, was it New Mexico State or UCF? I mean, it's just
It was New Mexico State because that he made that it was that pass from Jay Spauer late in the game
yeah,
when Watson got hurt. So
it's been a while. It's been a while, right? That's you're right. You have to get someone else going either in the red zone, in your in the or in the other team's territory, right? In plus territory, you got to find another receiver to get going. Now, if we're able just to run the ball for 400 something yards and just crush and do that, great. I'd love to see that. I just don't think we can keep getting away with kind of what we've been doing.
yeah,
Um,
but the running game has been great because of I mean the offensive line has just really improved and the tight ends have been such a key part. I talked a little I asked Keeler about a little bit about what Sohn and Garza have done for this team whenever they run out with 12, which is the most common personnel that they will run out there.
yeah,
It's just like I think what Keeler is trying to get across to everybody is like why move away from something that's working. And
oh yeah,
in all honesty, Luke, the running game has been working. We are one of the best in the country, and we're also not on that graphic when it talks about how many how what teams does Ashton Genty have more rushing yards than? And guess what? Sam Houston's not on there. So I kind of
Ashton Dinchey, man, that dude is incredible.
yeah,
Frisco guy
yeah, and
from Texas.
Sam Houston was one of the 15 teams that offered him. What could have been?
What if?
What could have
What
been?
if? No,
But
the reason why our running game has worked so well, and it is because of the O line, it's really come together this season. Colin, there is so much respect for Hunter Watson when it comes to him running the ball. I mean, teams fear it. They really do. And when he's able just to break a tackle, good luck, right? I mean, he has been so good in the open field. And him, this is gonna sound so weird, but him being able to throw the ball on the run has really opened up our running game for our backs and him. I mean, teams, you scheme for that type of stuff, and whenever he's able to roll out of the pocket and just break contain and get to the edge, he's been so good with that. And it goes across, and how good our playmakers are on the outside when it just comes to just raw athleticism. I don't know if there's a quicker player in the Conference USA than Ife Day, and I think we have the most explosive back, maybe, possibly, DJ McKinney.
yeah, and we also have experience in that backfield with Jay Ducker. I mean Ducker has been such a big piece for us. I mean it's like what you said earlier, Luke. It was A plus all the way around for all position groups when it but went in halfway point to the season. I just can't
Colin,
I can't point out a weak point right now. I honestly can't. I can't point out a weak position group.
That's the big thing. Remember last year where it was receivers couldn't get open, running backs couldn't get in space, quarterback no time, O line, you know, just not bigger, not stronger, not faster, losing leverage. That was the story of last year. This year, it's been completely flipped around, where you are winning those individual battles, and you see that in the results. When we came into the year, Colin, I thought, and you were at spring camp, and I should have taken your advice when you said look out for DJ McKinney, and of course, Gentry being kind of out, and kind of dealing with some injuries has really propelled DJ McKinney into the spotlight a little bit more. But I thought it was going to be Gentry and Ducker, and we just weren't going to see as much of him. I want to see more DJ McKinney. I like Ducker. I love McKinney. Colin, you were on him. You were the first guy on him. I'm giving you the credit there. He's been phenomenal.
He's a small guy, but he's just a bruiser. Like he's if he sees any sort of light, like when he's running in the trenches, if he sees an opening, he's zooming on through. And well, if he's in an open field, good luck, because you're probably not going to catch him. I mean, he's just that he. I mean, I'm not saying he's like him, but comparison wise, he's like Ashton Genty, a small running back who can who it seems like it's hard to take down. You need at least two guys to bring him down. And maybe one guy is going to bring him down, but be ready to take a big hit. And because it seems like every time McKinney gets touched, he racks up the yards after contact. And yeah,
Colin, it's not just him. If he's out of the game, you get Ducker to deal with too. Ducker's just like him. I mean, he'll run right through you. I mean, that's the beauty of this backfield.
oh, and guess what? If you think you're all focused on the running back, like you said, guess what? Hunter Watson can easily run that read option really well, and if you make one bad step, Watson's going to take advantage. If you're that contained guy that's watching the running back and the quarterback, you make one step towards that middle, Watson's going to see that, and he's going to take off.
Colin, I want to see us get in the T formation. I want to see us get in old school, like 23, 22 personnel. I want to see us running the triple option out there, just pounding guys. That's what I want to see.
Can we see the flex bone?
For real. Here, I'll give you a question, Colin. I'll give you a question.
Okay.
Throughout the year, we haven't seen much, and we've given them praise, but we haven't seen them come through receiving wise, the tight ends. Is this the game, Colin, where we came into the season, we were talking about Elijah Sohn, really being a breakout star. We haven't seen him catch the ball that much, Colin. Is this a game that kind of Sam Houston's been kind of holding them back for conference play to really scheme up some things for him? I think this might be the game where we see an Elijah Sohn touchdown.
Well, I will say this: there was a specific play that they ran against Texas State. I believe it was out of I believe it was out of single back, or if it was out of shotgun with the running back. I can't remember. But it was a fake handoff. Watson rolls to his right, and then Sohn is wide open. You know why? Because the teams, when they look at the film, they're so used to seeing Sohn stay in pass pro or running with the running back. But then what happens is Sohn block, run out, and he's wide open for a good 5-yard gain. I think that's just telling me that maybe they're starting to open up that area more. Because honestly, it would help out Watson a lot more to have that tight end, as I like to call it, the safety blanket, because that's what the tight end usually is. They're your Swiss Army knife of skill position players. They can block, they can run, they can catch.
Yeah, large target area. You can throw it up to them. They have hands where they can, they're just bigger guys, right? I mean, that's kind of what you want to see. I think this is the game that we've been holding them back all year, and we haven't seen much film on Elijah Stone throughout the year. I think this might be the game where you see a good team, Western Kentucky, maybe just kind of forget about him. He slips through and he has himself a quiet, you know, 5, 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. Like I think this is the game where you get him really involved and really maybe that opens up the passing game a little bit more. I mean, it feels like everything's kind of been around the perimeter, a lot of run after the catch type stuff. This might be the game where you get the middle of the field unlocked and find your tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that UTEP did absolutely wrong in one situation was run cover zero because it was just all by design. It seems like it seems like that they knew right away that they were going to run cover zero because it gave Qualves Humphreys one-on-one against a shorter receiver that he's going to beat every time.
Yeah.
I will say this before we get to our predictions. The play calling has been absolutely amazing. It seems like ever since that Texas State game, I've truly seen how good the play calling has been. At some points, it was a little shaky at the beginning, but Luke, that play calling, in like I broke down in a video, uh, you know, a little bit some time ago. The play calling's just been tremendous, and I have full confidence that they can keep it up for the rest of the year. I'm not saying that they're going to win out. It'd be pretty awesome. I just want to keep on. I just want to focus on a game at a time.
Completely agree. I've loved that we've really been able to open up the playbook and we're just running a whole lot more stuff.
Yeah.
Last year I kind of get where we were and transitioning in, it just feels like we've been able to run a lot more, do a lot more different things, different looks, different motions, different, concepts. I've loved that what we've done this year.
Well, Luke, it is time for that time of the football prediction segment. It's time for our keys and predictions. Luke, let's start with the keys first. I will go ahead and I'll go ahead and go first this time. I'm gonna say two things. One, secondary has to be on point against Velkamp against the receiving core. I think the corners will be fine in Armstead and Fisher. I'm gonna be mainly looking at Cash and Weaver to continue doing their thing and helping out the corners. And man, just make sure that nobody gets behind them because there was at some points during that UTEP game that the corners got beat, where a big passing play happened, and some of them were negated because of penalties, and but some. But the thing is, Luke, yeah, while it didn't count, that's still in my opinion, it's something I got concerned with in the UTEP game. So, but I have full confidence in safeties in that, and for the keys for the offense, you know, don't don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. Like, yes, the running game has been working for you, but don't be afraid to adjust on the fly and go to the passing game if you have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give one on the defense real quick. Colin, Coach Keeler talked about in the press conference today. Veltkamp, Western Kentucky's quarterback, he's a runner. He can run really well. I don't know if we've seen um, his type of ability to run the ball out of as many things as they run, maybe outside of KJ Jefferson, but they're from Central Florida. But this guy, we're going to have to find a way to get pressure on him and really make him uncomfortable and make him think about running the ball. I mean, you just don't want to give him that much because when he gets in open space, it's kind of like Hunter Watson, man. When he gets going, he's tough and he's shifty. He can break you down and get some big time yards, right? A huge dual threat guy. I want to see him get us more pressure, and we did a better job of that against UTEP. It's UTEP, I get it, not a great team, but we have to get more pressure on the quarterback, plain and simple. And whether it's Chris Murray, Nixon, Javon Leon, from the interior, from the linebackers, we're going to have to find a way to really get in the backfield. And offensively, it's what I say, Colin. I want us to unlock the middle of the field in the passing game and get these tight ends more involved there.
Hmm.
I want to see Elijah Stone really be a breakout guy this week. And we know he can be because we saw him all last year. We saw him all over the field making plays. Get him involved in the middle of the field and really strain this defense where make them take something away from you where you can just run the ball all day. After that, with it, keep your guys on the outside perimeter, get Simeon Evans going a little bit more. Of course, I mean, we know what Humphreys is and Humphreys is. I mean, we know he's a playmaker, but we got to find a way to get some of these other guys involved.
Yeah. And what is your prediction? What do you think is going to be the end result?
Yeah, so obviously, Colin, looking at it, 2.5 points. Um, line opened at it says it's -3. I saw it at a -1. We talked about it before. It was at one, nearly a pick 'em,
Yeah,
Colin.
yeah. Western was favored in that
Yeah,
by 1 point, 1.5 point. I think it was when it opened. Actually, I don't know why it's saying when it opened it was a 3.5 3 point favorite for Sam Houston. I swear, I think it when it opened because Sam Houston played, and it wasn't heading into that bye week. I think I could be wrong about that, but I swear I saw Western Kentucky get favored at 1 point. But then after that
yeah.
UTEP game happened, it seemed like the line closely favored Sam Houston, and it seems like the trend is gonna stay that way. The public's a little bit split on it, though. I will point that out.
I mean, it says 89% of the money is on Sam money line rather than the 11% is on West Kentucky, which money line is just straight up whoever
Yeah,
wins.
I was
I
saying it was split on the spread. Sorry,
Right.
I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, line's at 55.5 with the over under with the total. Colin, I like us winning this game. I think it's going to be kind of more um, of a typical game that we've seen out of Sam Houston's total wise. I'm going to say 31 West Kentucky 27.
I'm gonna go with a little higher scoring than you. I'm gonna say 38 to. I'm gonna say 38 to 31.
Mm.
I'm gonna go with a little bit high scoring on that one because I'm not saying our defense can get it done. It's just I think it's gonna be that type of game where it's gonna come down to which defense makes the bigger play at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's kind of how
Yeah,
I see it.
I think so. One thing I'm a little concerned about, we've been really good, Colin, about penalties and staying disciplined. I think maybe coming back home for the first time in a long time. I'm talking about at Bowers, right? Not talking about Houston, but at Bowers, off the bye week. I'm a little concerned about it, maybe a little rust. I'm a little concerned about that off the bye week. I mean, I know we were playing great, and I know it was a great time for the bye week. I am a little concerned about the rust.
Yeah, and if the crowd is gonna be as good as you know what people are saying, which hashtag pack Bowers baby. It's gonna be on ESPN too. A lot of the students are gonna be there because it's no secret, Luke, that there are a good number of students that go back home over the weekend. That while they stay at Sam Houston over the week to attend their classes, there is a good number of them that go back home over the weekend. And honestly, it's the middle of the week. It's a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday night. It's a Wednesday night game. Um, I think the student body. I think that student section is going to be rowdy. It's probably going to be. I don't want to say it's going to be record breaking yet or anything. We would just have to see what happens. But I wonder if we see something like what we saw for Jack State last year, which was our first conference home game in Conference USA.
Colin, you've lived in Huntsville before. Colin, I've lived in Huntsville before. What is going on a regular Wednesday night there in Huntsville?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing.
The students have to show up on this one.
Yes.
This is a huge game. I mean, it's this one and it's Liberty. Those are the two home games I mean, of course, they have La Tech in the middle of those, but Colin, those two are going to be huge for the crowd to really show up.
Yeah, I agree. Well, like Luke said, we will both be out there. We'll be on the sidelines, so you'll see us, and if you do run into us, don't be afraid to say hello. I went back I went back to Huntsville this past weekend for calling volleyball on ESPN Plus. I met a couple of people that were acquaintances of a friend of ours, and they recognized me, so that was interesting to say the least. They're cool people, nice talking to them. But yeah, but please go out. Your tests are not going on. I don't think around that time. Of course, I'm not. It's the middle of October, so there shouldn't be. Uh,
Midterms, Colin, midterms.
Midterms are they this week though?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Not in school right now.
yeah, exactly. We have no idea. We graduated. We don't
I
have to worry.
passed all mine.
We don't have to worry about it anymore. But hey, if you do want to unwind from the studying, from the schoolwork, and enjoy some good old fashioned football on a hopefully could be a cool night. You never know because the weather's been bipolar, of course, with all the sinuses that we've all been fighting. But we do implore you, go out there and of course stay throughout the whole game because it's going to be a really good game. Uh, I'm not expecting a blowout to happen whatsoever for either side. It's going to be a close game either way. But Luke,
Colin,
yeah,
Colin, I
yeah,
see a cold front coming in.
yeah, we're gonna have to wear a jacket when we're out there.
It says the high on Wednesday is 73 and the low is 54,
Oh
Colin.
baby, that is
This is
good
this
old.
is my type of weather.
This is
This is my type of weather.
it's gonna be good old fashioned football weather. Yeah. See, look, y'all are not gonna be sweating. It's not gonna be hot out there. Y'all, the high is indeed 75 or something like that, according to the weather app I have on my phone. And by the time kickoff happens, it will be 72, and then dip down to the mid 60s during the game. So you're not gonna be sweating. You're not gonna be sweating. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna survive. It's gonna be fun. We got football this Wednesday at Bauer Stadium, 6 p.m. If you are though not able to show up, you can tune in on ESPN 2. Yes, ESPN 2. It is gonna be fun. We're gonna have a lot of eyes on Sam Houston once again because it is gonna be the only football game that's going on during that time slot. Of course, we got FIU and UTEP right on CBS Sports Network right at almost in the middle of the third quarter. It'll be starting because it's an 8 p.m. Central Time start. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. A lot of eyes are gonna be on us. Our good old buddy Steve Helwick is going to be there. Hopefully, we get to see him out there. I bet Reddit for College Football is going to make an appearance as well, and along with other entities. So we'll see what happens. But that'll wrap things up for the Sam Houston Sports Talk podcast. Of course, follow us on all of our socials, like and subscribe today. We're at 173 subscribers, trying to get to 200. Of course, that's the next goal. But either way, it is Collin and Luke signing off, and we will see y'all this Wednesday at Elliott T. Bowers Stadium. As always, eat 'em up, cats, and pack Bowers.
Eat 'em up, cats.